All right. Hello, coffee makers, not coffee takers. Our friends of B. Nash is the master of cyber farms, and I, the people's chief, Dr. Joseph J. Bermilla Jr., and welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour. Cyber Coffee Hour is a product of from Mount Vernon, New York, and we are excited to share our experiences and stories of our incredible guests. Our mission is to impart knowledge, enhance understanding, and cultivate a sense of community in the expansive world of cyberspace. So for today's show, we'll have a coffee chat with the CEO of Olive Drab Technologies, Damone Brown. Now, Damone Brown is a highly decorated former U.S. Army Green Beret and Special Forces combat diver who enlisted shortly after 9/11 despite already holding a bachelor's degree. He served multiple deployments in Afghanistan and South America, earned the U.S. Army Ranger tab, and receiving medals for heroic actions in combat. After sustaining a traumatic brain injury from an IED explosion during his last tour, he transitioned to various roles within the Department of Defense, including as a contractor for the U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Group. Brown is the CEO of Olive Drab Technologies and serves as a chaplain for the Maryland Defense Force. He holds a Master of Divinity degree and is pursuing a Ph.D. at Liberty University. As an author, his book, Black People Can't Swim, reflects on his journey through Special Forces training, aiming to inspire readers to conquer their fears and overcome obstacles. He lives in the Washington, D.C. metro area with his wife and children. Damone Brown, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thank
How
you
you
so
doing, sir?
much, Dr. Joe Alfredo. It's so good to be here, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Awesome. Yeah. So, just firstly, just want to know. I know we just had Thanksgiving. Just want to know how things for you. Just the holiday. Taking it easy. How things were for you and your family.
Yeah, it was fantastic. What an opportunity it is to just sit back, relax, enjoy good food, and then just reflect. And so, one of the things I've really tried to instill in my family as a whole is gratitude. And so we try to reflect on that daily. But just a whole day where we can just sit aside and really talk about what we're grateful for is really special. So I appreciate it.
Friends, what about you, sir?
Same, 100%. It was finally good to relax with my family. I actually was a lazy bum this holiday and went to my cousin's house. I wasn't one to cook this year, but it was good to see everybody. Haven't seen them in a little while, and then it's a double dip for me. It was my daughter's birthday; she turned 8, so we took her to see Moana too, which was very good. It was very exciting.
Oh, nice. How was that?
Oh, it was amazing. I think I would say it was better than the first one. I'll just go that far to say that they definitely surprised me in the second rendition of that movie. And then what's more important is she was excited to see it. So we kind of surprised her and kind of fudged it and said we are going to go to a park. We're not going to really do anything special. And then we rolled up to the movie theater and got pretty good tickets to show her, Moana too. So she was very excited, which made me happy. And then she likes spending time with her cousins too. So tomorrow we're actually going to go over and help them with Christmas decorations.
That's cool. Yeah. For me, I'm visiting family here in Connecticut. So been here for the weekend. I dealt with a lot of traffic coming up here. Honestly,
Mm.
I left. I left work. Wednesday, like in the morning. I don't know, like close to 11. I didn't get to Connecticut to my parents' house here until like 6:30, like close to 7
Man,
p.m.
it's getting
Yeah,
worse.
yeah.
Boy,
It was brutal. It was brutal. It wasn't fun. So, but
boy.
yeah, but no, it was good, man. Just be able to just sit back, relax, and to spend time and see my niece. Just like I said, to spend time with family, just relaxing, just a break from the schedule, and I know I'm gonna get back to it once I return. I'm gonna head back tomorrow. I'm gonna leave much earlier tomorrow. Hopefully I could beat the traffic. So we'll see.
Yeah, I
Overall, it's
try
been
to do
good.
the trucker route, like 10 to 6 or 10 overnight. I try to do that like the truckers if I ever go that way. It helps. It helps, man. For real, but it's rough on the body leaving too early.
Mhm. All right. Well, glad to hear everyone's doing well and everyone's staying safe and things. So that's what's up. But Damone, again, thank you for being on the show today. And I'll start off. Just want to learn. Just I guess firstly, just what motivated you, to enlist in the army just 2 months after 9/11, and how did your educational background shape your military career?
Yeah. In one word, I would just say service. I had completed my bachelor's degree in At that point, you're really just looking for what you're going to do with your life and and for purpose. And so having kind of completed all the things that I had to that point in my life wanted to do for myself, play sports and get a degree and things like that, wasn't enough. And so 9/11 just kind of happened at that time, and it wasn't. And I guess interestingly enough, I grew up saying I would never join the military. I don't know what I will do as far as a career choice, but I will not join the military. Both of my parents were Air Force. I was actually third generation. And, I did 3 different high schools, and it was just a lot. And so I said I would never put my family through that. But after 9/11, it was just on my heart. And I was like, man, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I wanted to find the fastest way I could get into the military. And that's why I really chose to enlist rather than become an officer. My mom was an officer, and so that didn't go over very well, as far as, what are you thinking? Why would you enlist? And here's a better career path. But for me, it really was about service and how I could get into the military as fast as possible. So that was my motivation. As far as how my education came into play, I would say it was almost a stumbling block, because I listened to family and friends and things like that. It was almost to the point where I almost believed them and said, yeah, maybe I shouldn't go this route. Maybe I should do something different and maybe take a safer career path. So it was almost a stumbling block. Once I got into the military, I think it helped me. Your bachelor's degree, I think, is just, can you follow directions? Can you complete tasks? Can you, research and things like that? And those really helped me just becoming, finding out what I wanted to do as far as within the military. So having those skills really helped kind of kick that off.
No, and I think that's great, and understanding on your mom being in the military as well. I guess she was definitely maybe vying for you to go to the officer route. I guess maybe looking back in hindsight, do you still feel like going the enlisted route was the path for you, or maybe if you could do it again, would you have gone the officer route?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would. Within special forces, the officers get a maximum about 2 years on a team. And so you
Huh.
train for about a year and a half just to get about a year and a half on a team. And so, as an enlisted guy, you get to stay a little bit longer, or a lot longer, I guess. And you could spend your whole career there if you wanted to. So that was impactful for me. And I thought I would be an anomaly, enlisting, being in there, but there's so many people that I served with that had their degrees just like me, and I think they brought that experience with them. So it was a good thing.
Nice. So that's a good transition to our next question too. Can you share some of the most challenging moments you faced in the special forces, particularly as a combat diver, and what lessons did you learn from those experiences?
Yeah, I think being in the military, I learned mostly about myself. Right, those are the hardest, most challenging things that I learned were just what I was capable of, what I wasn't capable of, who I really was, all my weaknesses. And before you can kind of set goals or achieve goals, I think you really have to become aware of who you are. And so, like I said, the training to become special forces is about a year and a half. And for me, at the time I enlisted, it was about in 2002, there was 2% of special forces were black. So when I looked around in the training, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And so there's lots of reasons for that, but it doesn't matter, right? It's just you feel kind of alone. You feel like, what are you doing? Is this possible? When you see people that look like you're a little bit more comfortable, and things like that. And so not having that is seemingly debilitating, right? And so you don't have kind of the camaraderie, you don't have people patting you on the back and say, let's go, you can do this. And so it's hard. It was hard. But I think early on, the best thing I had learned was that it was worth it. All the struggles and the training and all of that. I really found that it was worth it. And so starting with that in mind, what did I want to accomplish really drove me past those doubts and those fears. And and all of my weaknesses. So you would think that the hardest part of special forces would be the training, but I really don't think it was. I think it was the day-to-day operational environment. And that was because every day was a competition. You couldn't go to work and just like, hey, today's going to be a recovery run, and like it start out, you're jogging at like 8-minute pace. And then, a minute into it, the camaraderie and the type A personality starts kicking in and you're out in a full out sprint. And so you really couldn't take days off in that environment. And so that's hard, but it was valuable. And, when I graduated, my mentor told me, hey, congratulations, I'm really proud of you. But now the real work begins. I really didn't understand what he was talking about. But you really have to have a ever curious mindset. You really have to get better. Technology's changing all the time. Warfare is changing all the time. And so you can't train on Vietnam tactics. You can't train on the first 9/11 tactics, right? The battle morphed as we were there. And so you really have to have a mindset of just continuous learning. There are people that graduate and they're like, hey, I got my Green Beret. Now I'm done. I'm good. They put their feet up. And those are the people you don't want to be around because they're just they're not capable of doing what you need to do in that environment. You really have to continue to learn and engage the enemy that way.
So something resonated with me. Can you unpack that? Because that's very challenging hearing the level of competition. For our listeners, can you unpack, like, these are other athletic top tier operators, right? Like you're competing with each other in that environment.
Yeah, you push yourselves. I think that I would put the athletic performance the most people I served with almost as being near that of an Olympian. Just really intelligent people, but very, very athletic. So yeah, every day you have to get better. You can't say, oh, I'm good at this. You can't really have a bad day, because in that business, having a bad day gets people killed. And so we train at a higher environment. You train at they say you train as you fight. And so every day the hope was for us to put ourselves in that environment where it could simulate the battlefield, and so that we were perform best in that realm.
Right. Okay. So that transitions into the next question. After sustaining a traumatic brain injury from an IED explosion, how did you navigate your recovery, and what strategies help you cope with the challenges that followed?
Yeah, it's a hard, I think it's an important question, but data suggests that like 50% of the population will meet the criteria of like mental disorder at some point in their life. And so traumatic brain injury isn't a mental disorder, but it often leads to some of the mental things we consider mental disorders. So like depression. For me, I had a photographic memory growing up. And so right after that IED, and that was the third IED I had hit in my career, but the last one, I immediately lost my photographic memory. The way, 30 years of life that your brain functioned, it's different. And so you're tempted to kind of feel, weak and, I don't know, weak, that you're self-doubt, you're fearful. And those are all things I've already overcome. But now I'm kind of at ground zero, chapter zero in my life, where I'm having to start fresh. And I think you have two choices. You can quit and say, well, feel sorry for myself. This is kind of what the world has for me. This is what life has for me. Or you can persevere and move into figuring out like what's next, and how do you get through this? And so for me, when it happened to me in 2009, there wasn't a lot of research out there. There wasn't a lot of help. So I went to the VA, and about a year and a half into that, I just got frustrated and stopped trying to get treatment. And so it wasn't until much later that I really found some of the significant treatments out there. But there's something called the operator syndrome that special operators go through. And operator syndrome, generally, if you looked at 60 days, 59 days of Ranger school is the general, if you made it straight through, they did a test. And so I think out of 100 males, at the end of 59 days, their testosterone was 80% less than the normal man. And so you got to think of 15 to 20 years of that type of environment that your body just, without traumatic brain injuries, your body just begins to fail. And so through that study, they found that there are generally about 2 or 3 areas of people's lives that they struggle. And so, depression being one of them, anger, irritability, low testosterone, imbalance of hormones, chemical imbalances in the brain was a huge one. And so they really just said, hey, let's figure out how to treat these individuals. And so, I actually went through that, and I was exploring that if I had a chemical imbalance, and I'm thank God for it, because I went to get tested, my blood tested, and they found out I had cancer from that test. And so that was just huge for me. And so that was really a blessing.
Chappie, man, like, wow, like you've broken multiple data sets in that conversation. You said 3 IED attacks. The data wasn't there. It's almost like you're entirely built different. Like there's no way to catch up. And even thinking, sitting here, witnessing and listening to that, there is no data set for that. There is no region of research on how to be built that different.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's nothing. One thing I like to communicate with people, there's nothing special about me. You know, I think when we say that people are special in and of themselves, I think we lose some of the value of like the hard work and the drive and things like that. And so there's nothing innately special, but I mean, I probably say in the Army, is one of my mottos was, I was too stupid to quit. You know, you just keep on pushing through and finishing out. But yeah.
So Damone, for one, that's very impressive. I mean, everything you endured, I think most people weren't able to keep going. So again, I definitely commend you for what you've gone through and what you're doing now. But also with that, you know, part of the things that you've done is becoming a chaplain. So as a chaplain for the Maryland Defense Force, how do you, you know, integrate your faith, you know, into your leadership and support for your fellow service members?
Yeah, I really think that, you know, the warrior and kind of the Christian live by the same like code of necessity, right? I think it demands they both. Say that again. Say that
I
one more
said
time.
big hole.
Yeah, I mean, it demands that the war must be fought every day, right? You can't, either one of them, you can't just take a day off, because there's work to be done. So for me, I personally just begin my day with prayer. You know, pray for myself, pray for others, and then I think if we were left to ourselves, we're generally selfish people. You know, we are innately selfish. So my kind of philosophy and leadership boils down to Philippians 2:3, which is a Bible verse, helps me combat that selfishness. But it says, do nothing out of selfless ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others more important than yourselves. And so I start there, right? That's really what's being married for as long as I've been married. That's saved me from that. But I think that is my leadership model that I begin with, is treating more people as more important than myself. Because it's easy, right? I can justify it. I can say that, you know what, I need this today. I need a break, or I need to go and do this for myself because I'm the breadwinner, or whatever it is. I can try to justify those things, but really I have to just start with, is this decision, and am I considering others more important than myself? So that's the model I have for my kind of my leadership. And it seems to really help me at least get through that selfishness. And I think the other part of my leadership that I would say is trust the soup. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, but artists use that. Trust the soup.
Trust the soup. Okay.
Yeah. If you think about soup, soup is, you just throw all the ingredients in there, right? You've got all your favorite vegetables, you've got the spices, and you're not making sure that each individual spice is doing what they need to do. You're just putting it in there and knowing that the water is going to make the taste and flavor unlock and all of those things. They're going to do individually their job, and it's going to create the really good soup that you demand. And so as a leader, nobody likes a micromanager. I think if you're a good leader, you've done your due diligence to put the right people in the right positions. And so you're modeling that what you need to model as a leader, but then at the end of the day, you need to trust the soup. You need to trust individual components of people to do what they're supposed to do. So trust the soup.
Like that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think we've all experienced that. We're bringing professionals together in one place, and yeah, the expectation is for everyone to do their respective jobs. That you're trusting them to do their part, and then it works for the collective whole. So yeah, you don't have time to be checking each spice, using your
It's a
reference
yeah,
to make sure everyone's doing the job. That's going to take forever. So that actually makes a lot of sense. So I think
yeah.
that's pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah,
trust
and I
issues.
think people try to do that though, right? A lot of
Hmm.
leaders try to do that, and my other thought is if I have to go behind you and check on your work, then I don't need you, right? And that was
Right.
the hardest part for me in leading the military was trying to be in the civilian sector was why do I have to ask people to do something 30 times before it gets done? And I thought I was strange in that, until I really started talking to other people and they were having some of the same struggles. But again, so that just, I can't change that. Only thing I can do to change it is try to put the right people in the right positions in whatever environment I was in. So, having said that, I think going back to the Defense Force, they have done a great job in putting great leaders in those roles. And so, for me as a chaplain, my role is just to come alongside of them and help them be the person they're meant to be. And so, you can take religion out of it. I have faith that drives what I do, but really, I want to just come alongside and encourage people and help them achieve what they're meant to achieve.
100%. I think something that's tracking with me too as well is the humility aspect. I've said this before too, you're missing that in the private sector. Everybody wants to be a chief. Everybody's bolstered up on the egotism, and they're also punching down on subordinates a lot more than I've noticed in a 20-year career. But there's that absence of humility. There's not enough. There's not enough of it to go around. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, what
yeah,
you just said too is I often want to see folks as leaders say, I want my subordinates to be better than me. I want them to excel beyond my stature, and that takes humility.
yeah,
That takes a ton of humility, even if you have to learn it on the job. And
yeah,
that's something I think that's also missing so much in the private sector, but even transition the other way. If you want to go from private sector to public or to contracting, you got to take a huge 100-pound check at yourself and have some humility with it. And say, am I ready to lead these folks?
yeah.
Can I help them get to another level that I haven't even achieved? Right. So I think humility detracts 100% with me when I heard that. That's just something that's not enough going around in private sector.
Yeah, humility. I mean, I talk a lot about humility in the book, and humility is dangerous, right? I think as soon as we think we're humble, then there goes that thought of pride in our minds, right? But it's hard. But I think you just have to be aware of it all the time. And I don't think people start with wanting to be humble, right? The world around us teaches us not to be humble, and it's kind
Right.
of a misnomer. But I think it's essential to leadership.
And you know that, as you just mentioned in your book, Black people can't swim. So that discovers overcoming fears and barriers, which I'm very interested in to really read myself as an avid reader. But what key message do you hope that readers take away, from your journey, and how can they apply it to their own lives?
Yeah. So yeah, overcoming fear, Dr. Joseph, I would say, I don't believe we can completely be fearless. Fear doesn't go away. I think, if we look at our lives, a healthy amount of fear serves us, all right, as a reminder to take action. And so I'd be lying to you if I said I was in the military and I was never afraid. But it was a respectable amount of fear that I had. But and I had to overcome the overwhelming fear because overwhelming fear paralyzes us. It keeps us from taking action. It keeps us from achieving our dreams and accomplishing the things that people said we couldn't do. And so we have to overcome that type of fear. But obviously, fear exists for a reason. But yeah, so I would say readers, I hope that they would see themselves in my story and realize some of the hard things that I went through. Not that the fear ever goes away, but you're able to manage it. Fear can be like a wall of resistance. And every time you overcome it just a little bit, you're pushing that wall back a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's a practice. Overcoming fear becomes a practice. And I think you have to practice being brave, right? You're not born just brave. No kid is like, oh yeah, I'm not afraid of this. I think we were born with fear. But we have to practice that. I think we can reprogram our brains and learn how to respond physically and emotionally and mentally to fear. And that's really what the key is to fear is how should we respond to it?
Nice, 100%. So I did get a copy of your book. One thing that stood out, and I'm not going to spoil too much of it. I got you a copy already, Dr. Joseph, so I'll send it to you. Is there's a chapter that says there's a 2-mile swim Now, I heard that and I read it twice. I had to write it down. I was like, yo, I don't even think I could swim a quarter mile. I would be shook. And then it's something in my brain clicked and said, hey, fear is of the unknown. I don't know what it was, but reading that is like, do I know if I can swim 2 miles? No, I'm shook. I'm scared even thinking about it, right? So it's that mental, like challenging yourself to get past that mental barrier and the analysis paralysis. I think fear pushes us to overanalyze ourselves and our weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And then it gets us stuck in like, yo, I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Overcoming that barrier of unknown that leads to fear and pushing that wall further, pushing yourself is 100% received. So I'm in that part of the chapter now.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think that's a great point on Fredzo, where, and of course, Damone, as you alluded to earlier, as far as just how we utilize fear. We can use it to push us further towards our goals, or we can succumb to it, and as Fred, as you mentioned, to let it paralyze us. So it definitely it is what our relationship with fear is. It could be a motivator or it could be a debilitator.
Yeah.
I think it's really just comes down as far as, and maybe Damone, I'll point this to you. So do you think with that, does it have to do? Do you think what one person deals with fear may has to do with the personality trait of someone? So for instance, maybe someone who has a mindset of, I'm just using an example. Let's say someone like Tom Brady kind of uses, he kind of feeds off of that type of thing where where people like, bet against him, this and that. He uses that to fuel him to go further. Do you think a personality trait is a factor as to whether it's how their relationship with fear is?
That's a great question. I think that, to me, I would restate that as like born or made, right? And I talk about that too in the book. Is a special operator born or made, right? Do you just get there automatically, or but I think it's a mixture of both. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. So we're born innately with everything we have to move beyond fear, but it has to be developed. And so if you look at Tom Brady, I love to watch his NFL combine 40 yard. He's terribly slow. It looks like he's walking. But he had to overcome a lot.
He was a
Yeah. So, I mean, he doesn't have, like, if you look at him, he doesn't look athletic, but he had to use and maximize the things that he had, and he used it to become great. And so I think one of the things, when I look at his career and his life, he was aware of his weaknesses, right? Nobody believed in him. He was always a second, third string guy. And so I think he had to make that choice. Do I want to stay here or do I want to develop? And he chose to develop. And he used that fear as a motivating thing. And I think at some point for him, he wasn't afraid of anything. As far as in the NFL, he wasn't afraid to lose. And hey, should I throw this pass? Or maybe it's going to get picked. Hey, I'm going to go for it, right? Who cares what the result is? And so that's the winning mindset. And I think that whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in the military, whether you're just a person in a office building, that's what you need, right? You have to not be afraid to fail, not be afraid to for people to ridicule you or whatever for a bad decision. You just have to be okay with the decision you made and realize that it's not going to kill you.
Right. And that kind of tracks to what I hear in industry. We always say in industry, especially in cyber, there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And every time we hear those, it's almost like each level is disabling, something in your previous career, right? Or something in your track record where if you have fear, then you're uncertain of your skill set. And then because of that uncertainty, you doubt yourself, or you might go into this, what we see a lot in industry, the imposter syndrome. Like, can I code this well? Or can I see myself, getting that promotion I ever tracked? But I think removing each barrier and overcoming that will help you get rid of any fear or any doubt that you might have. And then tracking with what you just said, Chappie, is the uncertainty. Like you said, like listening to him doubt himself as an athlete, but then still overcome the losses and still push through all of the uncertainty that initially gave him his fear to be, the champion he is today. So I think there's a lot of that goes on in our industry too, that initial fear stops us from tracking the unknowns, from tracking the uncertainty and challenge it, and then removing all doubt on being able to take out those challenges. So I think that's 100% received on my end from cyber all the way out, even in your personal life. Like removing each of those barriers should be the mission.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think just the first step, right, is to identify your fear. If you ask most people, what are you afraid of? It's either to respond. Well, I think most people won't have an answer, right? What are you afraid of? Like, no, most people won't have an answer. Or most people, if they do know the answer, they're not willing to share it, right?
Right.
And that's something they
100%.
hold close to themselves. And being, I think you have to identify it before you can try to overcome it. But I also think you have to share it, right? If I'm telling people what I'm afraid of, then they can come alongside me and really help me overcome it. And people that quit, often they do so alone, and it's they have this thought process that, hey, I'm alone in my thoughts, I'm alone with my support. But hey, bring your crew in, your tribe, and allow them to support you in what you're afraid of, and that's how you become great, I think.
Nice. Yeah.
So we have Damone Brown here on the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. Having a great discussion, and we're going to continue that as we transition here. Just learn a little bit more about Damone and things that he's done, and also some of the things he likes to do outside of work and things of that nature. So, Damone, if just maybe you can share. I know we talked about, of course, your book. Maybe just if you could just share a bit more about your current organization and just how that got started and just where things are and where they're going.
Yeah. So my company is just I call it a technology company. It's a solution company, right? If you look up the word technology, it really is solutions. It's not a piece of equipment, but the deeper meaning is it's a solution to a problem. And so I think that's what I walked away from with the military, is that I call myself a professional problem solver. And so, being given little and having to create much is really what I was trained to do in different environments. And so I was a DoD contractor, and I was okay with that. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed being close to the military and the group of people for years. But the contracting world's a beast, and as you have people that are contracting, I think organizations quickly hire people for the role that they want them to serve in. And if you're lucky, you start at the beginning of a 5-year career or a 5-year contract. But after that 5 years, lots of the people are kind of forgotten about, right? So the contract comes to an end, and you're thinking, well, hey, thanks for your service, really appreciate it, good luck on your next job. We can't help you because we don't have a role for you. And so I think for me, I wanted to start a company that could change that. And so I'm passionate about bringing people in. Yes, I want to hire you for this role, but I see that potentially in the next 4 years you could be here. And from what I'm hearing you from the interview, that conversation should start in the interview process. I would like to help you get to this point. So it's offering schooling, mentoring, whatever it is, there should be some type of development plan to allow that person to, after 4 or 5 years, be better than they were before they got to your organization. I think as a whole, most people are just the same. They're stagnant. They worked in that role, but unless they can find another contract with that exact same requirement, they really haven't done much to stay in the industry. And so it's going to be difficult to find a job. So that's what's different about my organization, is just bringing people in, helping them find what they're passionate about, and then trying to give them the tools to become what they're meant to become, as well as serving the clients and things like that. But I think there's two. Oftentimes people just serve the customer, but I want to serve the employee as well. So that's really been my passion.
Yeah, you speak to a lot. You speak to a lot with contracting. Something that didn't resonate with me was the constant need to level up in such a short period of time. So I appreciate you even saying that you work on the employee, because you're right. You're useless after a certain solution's down, offboarded, or decommissioned, or even I hate to say it, no longer funded. Right. So I respect that you also work on the employee to get them fitted for any type of client or any type of contract that they may pick up. So that's respected. Now, I want to kind of craft our usual question here. What would you say is the first piece of technology that sparked your interest in theology?
So my first piece of technology, man, I think I remember growing up, I'm like a CD guy. And so I had the portable Walkmans back in the day. And
The Sony one.
tried to exercise with that. I'm like, they had the anti-skip like 30 seconds, but trying to get a jog in was kind of painful. But I just remember like laying on my bed dreaming, like, man, I wish I could invent this device that I could just take with me and listen to music when it wouldn't skip. And then the iPod came out. So I'm partial to the iPod.
Nice.
I really like the iPod. But yeah, as far as bringing God into technology, I really think that we are meant to, God created us to have dominion, right? And so we think of technology, we're oftentimes willingly controlled by our technology. If you're looking at Netflix, right, that little, how it skips to the next episode, you don't have to push a button, it just automatically gets you to spend 5 hours of your day like, man, I accomplished nothing today. I just sat here being trapped. And even the episodes are really trapped to like, man, I got to find out what happens next with our curiosity. So for me, how I imagine technology, they're supposed to be a support to us. It's supposed to be helping us get to a solution, but oftentimes technology's having dominion over us. So I start there. We're supposed to have dominion over technology, and as we move, and if you consider God, then it should be pointing us back to God, and sometimes it's pointing us away. So how do we use technology? How do we interface with it? Those are questions that I think we need to ask ourselves. But yeah, there's supposed to be resources. They're amazing bits of technology. I love seeing my kids empowered by it, but I'm also, I always have to ask that question, like, what's the danger of some of the technologies as well? And of course, we can see it from a cybersecurity perspective, as well as just warfare perspective. We see people are using technology wrong, and there's evil existing in it. So yeah.
So there's two things that track with me, what you said that. So cyber took on this mantle. I think it came out of Google, or it might have came out of one of the threat intel providers, but they got this saying called "hunt evil" now. And you're right. I have to pray on that, because you're looking at the different sides of the dark world. The dark web and the subsequent world that uses technology in that manner. So, it takes a little faith to stick that out and endure and use the technology in a way that God would intend us to. So that's 100% received. The second side that I heard, there's a site that actually revives iPods. People have such an emotional attachment. My mom is one of them. She's faith-based. She has like her gospel songs on them and stuff.
Wow.
And literally when the iPod was decommissioned, end of life, she called me 5 times. She's like, what's happening? I can't get my songs off of it. Like, can you son repair my iPod, because I'll be lost without these songs? And I was like, Mom, and she told me about the site and everything.
Wow.
So she did her research. She got, she has a journal that she writes her scriptures in, and she's literally cataloging all her gospel songs for me to recover using this site.
Wow.
So I tracked with the iPod, and I didn't know, it had this effect and this attachment, because it's not the iPod itself, it's all her gospel songs it's on.
Yeah.
That was it. That she was so upset that they got rid of it, the iPod, because of that. So that resonates with me too as well. We gotta bring our best selves and God to where we apply our blessing in technology, for sure.
Yeah, when I used to travel, I've gone to a lot of third world countries in the military, and every time you go through security and the airport security is just kind of looking through your bag and like, hey, this is nice. I'm like, yeah, thanks, put it back. And they're just basically trying to position themselves to take some of your belongings. And so I was like, man, I'm tired of going through this. So I just started buying pink everything. So I had a pink iPod that, man, imagine nobody ever took it. Nobody ever stole my pink iPod.
Did it have glitter on it too? Like, that's something like...
I should have.
Yeah, that's
bedazzle
smart.
it a little bit.
Right. No, let us put this back.
So Damone, what are some of the key challenges that you face in your journey to success, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think pride, we talked about humility a little bit, but pride's a big one. And ego, right? I think our ego is really attached to fear. And so that really keeps us from putting ourselves out there, right? And every time I've tried to do something hard or do something that's not natural, I'm not naturally gifted at, such as writing, you have those thoughts and like, oh, don't do this. It's not worth your time. And it's not, you're not going to be successful, and, you're wasting your time and things like that. So I think just managing my ego, managing my pride, and not being afraid to fail. But those have been huge challenges, just getting up out of the bed and willing to try to do something difficult. But I think too, the other part is to bring along people bring people alongside of you. I think we're tempted to try to do things on our own, but for me, I really try to bring people along with me. And one, for accountability has been a big thing, and also as a sounding board and just share the vision. So as I talk to people, I do try to help people with small businesses, and as I try to encourage them, I often hear like they don't have a vision. I'm like, man, I talked to a guy last week who's been doing this business for 20 years, over 20 years. And I'm like, well, what's your vision? What do you want to accomplish? And he had no idea. And he just does it. And so what I saw is he's working in the business rather than on it. And I think as a leader, as a person that has an organization, that you have to work on your business. And oftentimes sometimes you don't feel like you don't have time to do that in a day, but it's essential. And so for me, I've been able to kind of carve out some time to just really decide what is it that I'm trying to accomplish. And that's what drives me. If I have to make a decision, I bounce it back to the vision. And if it doesn't pair well with the vision, then it's not the right decision. So it's kind of easy.
So that plays into our next two questions, but we'll start on a lighter note first. What is your favorite coffee preference that helps you get throughout your day?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Fortitude Coffee. I've seriously, it's a local coffee brand in Thurmont, Maryland, and the owner was a special operator guy. He doesn't like me saying that, but former special operator. And his wife is a veteran as well, and just incredible people. And they roasted themselves, and they have great different types of coffee flavors, and really, like, my kids are 12 and 13. They don't like coffee, but when I'm brewing it, they're like, man, that smells so good. And they're starting to have that itch to drink it. And so but yeah, it starts my day. I'm lucky I found it maybe about 6 months ago, and it's delicious. So that's what I drink.
Nice. And you said it's local to Maryland, so we can order through their site.
Absolutely. They're big. They've got their site up, and they're on social media, and they're doing big things. So shout out to Fortitude Coffee.
How long have they been in business?
At least 2 to 3 years. So
Okay.
you can actually go to their place of business where they actually roast it and kind of see them do the work, which is really cool. Makes me think of like Willy Wonka back in the day.
Check. Visit the roastery, get a dark chocolate roast.
Yeah, they're nice. Good. It's really good. So
okay.
And today actually I think is small business day or whatever. So today is the time to support small local businesses, and so shout out to them on that realm as well. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're gonna also change it up a little bit. So if you had a superpower to help you in olive drab technologies, what would it be and why?
And I think I would have a compassion, right? Because in my realm, you've built up so much resilience and things like that. One thing that I have to always tell my kids is my kids aren't Rangers, because I think like they should respond like this. But that's one of the most important lessons I've learned is my employees and my kids aren't Rangers, and they're not built kind of in that realm. So just to have compassion, more compassion and understanding would be my superpower, so that I can really create. I think if you help people in their struggles, they become better employees. Right. And so if you have the compassion to understand, like, hey, what is this person going through? And you really take time to investigate and sit down with them, and you hear them, and then, man, like, they were struggling last week, but now they're like, firing on all cylinders, and they're doing good things. And so I would say compassion would be my superpower.
Awesome. Outstanding.
And I think that's sadly, some leaders are missing that, to have having
especially
that quality,
in cyber,
having that quality, that attribute, and was talking about, mentioned is really getting the best out of your employees, as just meeting them where they are, having the understanding, and then you'll see a change. You see a change in their productivity, the work that they do, their responsiveness. Just seeing them more than just as an employee or just as another number, but seeing them as an actual human being. Like I said, just meeting them where they are, and yeah, you'll see a change, see a difference. So, I hope more people are able to get that, more leaders get that a superpower quality as well.
Right. I think I think it should happen before Skynet goes online for sure, especially in cyber, because there's this mindset. I think you touched on it earlier that you need a tribe. You need to have folks that cross train. You need to have those mentors, those coaches that get you over some of the learning hurdles and physical challenges, the adversities, the things that might not have you equipped to do your job. Like you said, firing all cylinders, that resonates. The other thing is the tribal aspect doesn't seem to be there to offer the compassion. Like people don't generally become compassionate if their leader's not. They're trying to follow behind a leader that lacks the empathy, lacks the compassion, lacks the humility. So they think that's how they become a leader, right? So that tracks 100. Especially, I hate that, I don't want to pick on our industry too much, but especially in cyber, there's always this level up aspect. I'm better than you out the gate type thing. No one takes that backseat and say, well, I can help you with Security Plus. I can help you with this incident. I can also help you understand Linux, right? Like those are the things that we need to start emulating as leaders to take on the next generation of folks that should replace us, right? We're not going to do this until we're 100. So there's a humility aspect and compassion aspect there for sure.
Yeah, well, I think that people feel like they're going to work themselves out of a job. So if I train someone, or if I tell them, if I let my guard down a little bit, then or if I help this person become as good as I am at whatever it is I do, then they feel like, well, they're going to take my job or something. But I think that's where that competition comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's unhealthy, right? It's really unhealthy. And like you said, you emulate the leader. And so I think even as followers, I think that has to be the message too, is that every day doesn't have to be a competition. We're working together. There's not a big part of a team. That's what I see, right? People don't see themselves as a part of, like, we're on a team. I don't care if you got the job done or if I got the job done, the team got it done. But they're like, your name's not actually on it, but they think it is. It's like, no, it came from our team. And so we really should work together to produce the product and be proud of it as a team. But it's hard.
That reminds me of a saying, and I don't remember where I got it from. I got to look it up, but it's absent of competition, there's only trust and collaboration. So that resonates too. Like if there's no competition, the only two options left is to trust and collaborate. And I think that builds the tribe and that builds the squad. I hate making the video game references, but I'd rather have a stacked trust and collaborative team than, somebody that I always feel like I have to compete with. Right. Regardless of how good I become, this person's always going to remind me I'm a step behind them. That's not something that, you want to see in industry for much longer.
Yeah. I mean, competition's good, right? It is good, but I think the value of the competition. So some people place competition in that first category, and I don't think it should be there. Competition's good. That's spurs on innovation, but I don't think we should start with competition. I think we should start with compassion and other things. But yeah.
Nice.
So Damone, last question here. What are some of your hobbies, interests, things like that you like to do outside of work to help you reset?
Yeah, I love photography and videography. Those are really big hobbies of mine that I try to stay engaged with. I really loved creating. So those are two things. And then I think the other one would be coaching. So I love to coach, and I've been given a lot. And so I just try to give back in that realm. But man, it's the hardest thing I've done. Like beyond special forces, coaching is hard.
Really?
My gosh, man. Well, maybe it's the age that I coach. It's like middle school. It's hard. Just trying to get all the kids on the same page, but it's so rewarding, right? To see people start and not believe in themselves, and to give them. I think it's a gift to have someone believe in you. I was talking with someone in the hospital as a chaplain role, and I just said, "Man, I'm proud of you." It was actually a person that just tried to commit suicide, and so.
Wow.
Just after talking with her, she said, I'm going to fight. Life is worth fighting for. And her response was, I said, I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you're going to fight this. And she said, she starts crying. I'm like, we're going backwards. Why are you crying? And she's like, no, these are tears of joy. And she's like, no one's ever told me. She was 29 years old. She said, no one's ever told me they're proud of me. And so as a coach, I remember those moments like that, and I get to instill that into other kids, and just like, hey, I'm proud of you, and just that belief in them. And just like you were saying earlier, Alfredo, is that it's a gift, I think, to believe in people. And as a leader, if you see yourself like, hey, I'm not the boss and you should listen to me, but people willingly to follow you willingly, not out of dominion or compulsion, but really out of respect and admiration. And then seeing it as a gift that can be taken away, I think is a gem. So it's hard, but I do love it and I do enjoy the responsibility.
That hit me in the heart a little bit, man.
Yeah. Damone, it's been definitely great having you on the show, man. I definitely
Thank you
appreciate
so
you spending
much.
time with us for this episode. But before we let you go, if you wanted to share any last sentiments with our listeners.
I always tell people like this is just to be drown proof. I try to encourage people to be drown proof. And what I mean by that is really to develop the mindset of overcoming three things, right? To have a overcome adversity mindset. They can do anything they put their mind to. And then lastly, quitting's not an option. So I encourage people to be drown proof.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to get to hang out with you guys on a Saturday morning. So I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you out there listening, joining us for another episode of the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode, explore more engaging content in the Alive Podcast Network app. By supporting this podcast and nearly 100 other Black hosted shows, you can enjoy ad-free listening while contributing to a diverse range of voices in the podcasting space. We appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more insightful conversations with you in our next episode. So until then, keep brewing those ideas and stay curious about cybersecurity. All right, that's it. It's a wrap. We're out of here.
Awesome.
Peace.
Awesome. So have to hang on until it buffers right.